Hello, everyone. I'll just give everyone a few minutes to join us. Hopefully, the technology doesn't let us down. But we're in for a big discussion tonight because I have been doing a video on all the different visas for Italy, the different visas that are the topic of my latest videos, and in particular yesterday the digital nomad visa, which has been ratified in Italy and they're going to roll it out. And I just want to discuss the ins and outs of that, the limitations of that, and whether it could suit you. But we'll just give everybody time to come into the room. Usually I'm joined by people from Canada, the States, and quite a few other countries, maybe England, maybe Ireland. Although this subject may not seem like it's suited for European Union people because they obviously don't need these visas. We're going to also talk about living in Italy and getting permissions, and you still need residence permits in Italy. Even if you are European Union, you still need to register, and Italy is known for its bureaucracy. Anyway, so we're going to cover every subject tonight, but I'm going to keep the backbone of this is going to be questions that I've received from people about what happens and questions they have that haven't been answered by whichever platform they are on, whether they're in a Facebook group or they're following videos on YouTube or their actual experience with the consulate of getting a visa or a residence permit to come to Italy. So in broad strokes, as I've covered on previous videos before the live, there are various visas for Italy. I'm going to cover the three most common, which are generally the elective visa, which has been on everybody's tongues in the last few months, and let's say a year. And the elective visa basically is designed for retired people or people who have the means to retire early and have enough social security contributions or enough assets available, passive income, in other words, to come to Italy to either reside in their own home that they bought or to rent a place on a contract for a year. And that's a year's visa. The initial entrance would be a year, and you cannot work on this visa. There's no permission to work whatsoever. So it's not suitable for people, one, who don't have the means, because you need between, depending on how many people in your family, but for one person, it's, let's say, about 32,000 annually that you need to earn passively. In other words, that comes in every month, needs to be provable. I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts of each one of these because we have some questions to answer. So that's one visa that we've been discussing. Another visa that has been released in the last month, and the Italian government have signed off on it, and now they're going to refine it and we hope improve it, is the digital nomad visa. And the digital nomad visa, I'm going to go into its details now. That's one option that's different from the elective visa, because the elective visa is quite restrictive in its, you cannot work in any way, shape or form, and you need passive income. So the digital nomad visa got released. You need to go and watch my video on it, perhaps after this, and I will give you all of that. But we are going to discuss it tonight because it's on everybody's minds and on everybody's lips. And then another option would be the study visa for Italy, but it is not simply that you come and you do a leather making course or some small little language course in Florence and have a great time. You have to be registered in university, and then after you actually graduate, you have to actually graduate, you can apply to stay on and change your permit of stay from study to living a living and working visa. You have to have a job, obviously, because in every one of the cases of these visas, and I don't think Italy is that different from most other countries, the impetus, the Italian government needs to ensure that whoever they give permission to come is able to, number one, sustain themselves, support themselves, be able to pay for a year's health insurance, because at least a year, if that's the duration of the video you're getting, because access to free, or at least tax paid, we pay with our taxes, it's not exactly free, but access to that state medical without cost is not open to people who are just here on a year's visa, and generally open to permanent residents. So those are the three that we're going to cover tonight. They are also entrepreneurial videos that involve investment. You have to set up a company. There's a certain amount of people that you have to employ. You have to employ people locally. So those investment visas, those are generally not what we cover here, because generally they would do that through a lawyer, an immigration lawyer, and they would have all that information at hand, because somebody actually will advise them directly. So anyway, that's what we're going to cover tonight. We're also going to talk about, because I've got the questions here that have been sent to me either on comments or comments on previous videos. We're also going to talk about what it is to live in Italy after Brexit, our rights. All of these things have been covered in videos, but tonight we're just opening the whole forum for anybody who wants to ask whatever. If you've come into the room, won't you just put your first name, I don't need a surname, in the chat, and which country you're joining us from. You just write it down there in the chat box, and then I can welcome you. And if you want to ask a question, you can ask there. If you don't want to ask a question during the chat, you just want to listen, but later on you think of a question, you can put it in the comment section. And in the comment section, everybody has the benefit, if you ask a question, of seeing my answer to that question. So it is a learning experience. I do this because I have encountered and met so many people who are struggling with these issues. Okay, we're also going to make some comparisons with other European countries, which I know pretty well. I have first-hand knowledge of the Portuguese digital nomad visa, how that compares. Spain is also quite favorable. So we're going to compare the Italian system, this digital nomad visa that's about to come out, with how it compares to Spain and Portugal, etc. Okay, so that's the scope of what we're going to cover tonight. If you're with us, please won't you subscribe? Please won't you like the video? You can do that right now. You can just hit the like button. It's right there. You just touch it. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed, then you won't know the updates that are coming. So very first question I got this week on the digital nomad visa is, it's from John, and he says, as for the qualification, because one of the requirements for the digital nomad visa is a degree, a master's degree, and he says, does it have to be in any particular forum? Does it have to be in a particular subject? And the answer to that question is, the Italian government haven't made that qualification. And what is to be assumed at this moment is one needs a master's degree. Does it need to be in technology? Not necessarily. What does have to happen with the digital nomad visa is that they need proof, 6 months proof actually, that you have been earning your money online as a digital nomad. So if you've been living in Bali, or wherever you've been living, in your country of residence perhaps, or in another country that you found cheaper to live in, and you're traveling and you're earning your money as a digital nomad, either writing content or doing code or whatever it is that you're doing, perhaps teaching some technical subjects online. So however you're earning your money, if you're earning it online as a digital nomad, this would apply to you. So the requirements are, I'll go through them quickly, but you need to, and I will hook it up there later on. I will put a link to it. I have just done, in fact, yesterday, the digital nomad requirements. But the requirements are, in a nutshell, that you need to be earning and you need to prove that you have earned for at least 6 months, better if it's even longer. And by proof, we mean invoice. They mean, not me, I'm not deciding, invoices, proper work contracts, not just, oh, I did this and I got paid that. You need actual proof of, invoices and receipts, or how the money has moved and what you've earned. And so you need that. And that needs to equal about 28,000, between 28,000 and 30,000 annually, which is not a huge amount, in my opinion anyway, for a digital nomad person. And particularly if you consider what the cost of living is in Italy in terms of rent, food, etc. It's about 2.3 a month. Okay. So that's the first requirement. You need to have a master's degree. I don't know if Italy is going to change its stance on this, but that's how it stands at this moment. You need to have a master's degree in whatever subject you did it in. You also need to have a clear criminal record. That goes without saying. Obviously, that's the case for every visa. And you need to prove that you are a digital nomad. This is how you earn your living. And when this visa, and by the way, you apply at your consulate at home. You're not coming here and then applying for any of these visas. You cannot come to Italy and apply for these visas. These visas are, in fact, applied for at your consulate in your country of residence. Great. So you would apply there, and there is some discretion that they put towards it, what documents they would need from you. And you need to be you need to actually pay tax in Italy. So this might be one of the things that many people find concerning about this digital nomad visa, because if you're paying tax in the States and your tax resident country is in the States, and you come to Italy and you set up as a self-employed person, as a digital nomad, and you then have to get a VAT number, you have to pay VAT over, so you would have to charge VAT on your invoices, and then you would have to pay that VAT back to the government. So that you would have to set up those tax structures being a self-employed person here in Italy. There is another option for this, is that if an international company, obviously, or maybe from your country from whence you're coming to Italy, want to employ you, then they would do that, and they would cover your social security situation. So one of the requirements of this digital nomad visa is that you need to pay into the social security system in Italy, or you need an equivalent in your country and proof that you're paying that in your country. Okay, so as I say, you need to go watch that video, and the list is there and all of that. But I just want to cover some of the questions that have come up from that video. So one of them, which I just mentioned, was John saying, what qualification do you need? Do you know which particular master's degree they're looking for? I don't, and they haven't listed it. Please bear in mind that this could change before this actually starts being implemented, because what often happens in Italy, laws are passed and then they need to be fine-tuned. So I'm hoping that in the couple of months that we have, when people start applying for this in the consulates, which I don't see, if you look at the websites of the consulates, are they offering this as an option yet? That's the moment where we have the green light. I haven't heard of anybody who's had it published on their consulate site yet. If you have, or you think that you know when it will be on your consulate site, let me know. And so when that happens, then we will start to look at whether the Italian government is going to maybe fine tune this, make it more in line with other Mediterranean countries in the area, in the European Union, for example, Portugal, which has a very advantageous digital nomad visa. And for that reason, Portugal got flooded with digital nomad people working there. And in fact, the Portuguese people, the Portuguese nation had a lot of objection because the rents went up. Obviously, they felt that, you know, they could no longer afford the cost of living in Portugal and the rents that had gone up. So it's not always a favorable thing for a country, and it's very likely that Italy is very cautious about this because of its very protected job market. And so, yes, okay, you're coming to set up your digital online work situation that you've already been doing. So theoretically, you're not taking a job from Italy. But, you know, when you're here, when you're living here, you will start to mingle and socialize with other people doing, if it's tech, if it's coding or whatever it is, writing, you're going to be mixing with other expat people here in Italy. And sooner or later, an international company might say to you, oh, you're working for yourself? Yes, I'm a digital nomad. Well, we have a job upcoming. And so right now, you can't come to Italy unless you have a European Union citizenship. You can't come and just set up your company and work. You have to have a permit. And perhaps I'm imagining, I don't know, I'm not in the rooms where they discuss this, but having lived in Italy for 20 plus years, I know how these discussions go because I have these discussions with Italians, and they are very nervous about the job market, that they don't want a whole lot of, I don't know, let's not pick a country, but from the States or from Canada or from Australia, whatever, landing here and suddenly taking these tech jobs, which are very, very well guarded in Italy and very protected. Obviously, you would have to be here a year. It's an initial year. So in that year, they evaluate the situation, and then you can apply for a second year. And there is some kind of, this is another question that came up that I see I've written down here, is that there is a family unification option. So it is possible that maybe if you're granted this visa and you plug in here and you register for residence, register for tax, you could have your family join you, providing they have a provable relationship with you, obviously, husband, wife, I don't know. We have something called a de facto partner, which is a partner, a de facto couple. It's a European term. So yes, so that exists. That has already been stated. For the rest, I think it's going to have to be ironed out once they release it. But anyway, so that's so. How do you feel about that? I'd love to hear your comments about that. What do you see as the major negatives of that for you in particular, if you were dreaming to come to Italy? So I've had this discussion actually on another forum this month. And a couple of things that came up was, yes, Portugal and Spain both have this digital nomad visa, but most of the people I'm talking to don't want to go to Spain. They don't want to go to Portugal for the digital nomad visa. They want to be in Italy, and they desperately want this digital nomad visa to answer some of their questions. What I need to say on this front is, yes, I understand the need to want to be in Italy, but if you are thinking that this is the answer to your permanent residence in Italy, I'm not sure that this actually is a good solution for you, for a couple of reasons. Because it's an initial 1 year Okay, so let's say that 1 year you managed to work and you taxed resident. It means that, there's quite a lot of setting up there. It's not just I'll fly in for 6 months, I'll work, I'll enjoy Italy, as many people would love to do. I'll do my online work, then I can fly back home when I want to, which of course you could do. Um, and as long as you're earning what you need to support yourself, and at the end of the year you do your tax or whatever, then you could renew for your second year and take it from there. But most people who bought a house here and then realized after Brexit that they can't actually be resident here, this doesn't answer their immediate needs, because their immediate need is to avoid being a Schengen shuffler and having to only spend 90 days and then get out of the Schengen countries and go flying back and forth and shuffling between whatever, because they need to enjoy their house that they built and maybe wanted to retire in here. But for whatever reason, they don't meet the requirements for the elective visa. They're not ready to retire. They don't have sufficient income. They don't have a passive income. All that, they just find the elective visa process too long and winding for them, and they don't want to make that commitment. So that's a possibility. So if you compare these two, the elective visa, which is called the elective visa, it's not called the retirement visa, but if you had passive income that met the requirement of between, it depends on the consulate, as I just mentioned, between 30 and 50,000 every year, well, I mean, yes, you could do that. You could come on the elective visa, but it has its drawbacks, because again, it's for a year and then it needs to be reevaluated. But if none of the other options worked for you, in other words, you don't have the ability to apply for Italian citizenship because you're not a descendant of a grandparent or great grandparent who is Italian, and you haven't married an Italian, and you haven't been resident in Italy for 10 years, and you can't apply for residence by naturalization, well, these are the only other options that there are left. Obviously, people of great means, in other words, the very wealthy, can find their way around all of this. They could do an investment visa. They could start a company here and employ locals. So we're basically talking about working class people, middle class people, people like you and me, I assume, who really don't have a problem supporting themselves, have always been able to support themselves, but have some limits on their earnings. If you are affluent and you bought a house in Italy and you can't stay in it because you don't qualify for residence through any of the options I just gave you, then maybe it isn't a big issue if you have the means to fly back and forth, and maybe it suits you. Maybe it just suits you to spend that time in Italy and then explore other countries outside of the Schengen agreement. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm talking to various different groups of people here. So, anyway, that's another question that came up. And the taxability issue is a major issue, because if you're just coming for a year and if you're working for yourself, that whole registering for tax thing in Italy, that could be quite cumbersome, or maybe not. But it certainly makes people a bit circumspect, okay? Because once you're tax resident here, you can't be tax resident somewhere else. Okay, so that's something to consider. Another question that came up was, could it be possible to justify not having a degree, in other words, a master's degree, if you have some kind of applied science, for example, a technology qualification that would be equal to a degree, quite possible. And certainly once it rolls out, there may be these fine tunings that the Italian government will do if they get enough requests from the consulate saying, hey, I'm a technology whiz and I need to work as a digital nomad, but I don't have this master's degree that you require, but would this be equivalent? This is all possible. This is all under discussion, and this is a discussion forum right here, right now. Okay, another question from Sue. Okay, so her question was, once I've arrived, what are the next steps after I get this digital nomad visa? So the next step, according to what has been published by the Italian government so far, is that within a week, 8 days, I think it is, you have to register here with the Questura, which is the state police, and you have to register that you're here and you are coming under your digital nomad visa that was issued by your consulate. And so you register for residence here. I hope that answers your question, Sue. Hello, darling. Happiness Sparkles, my dear friend from Canada, has joined us. We're talking about coming to live in Italy and helping people with all the issues they're having who have houses here, Francis, in Italy and now can't live in them because they don't have residence rights. So anyway, we're talking about all kinds of different things. Francis and I had many lives together in the past when I was reviewing perfume. Still love to review perfume. So anyway, lovely to see you, Francis. You're most welcome. Don't forget to like the video. Oh, it's so great to see you. It's really fun. I've always loved our lives. We used to have a whole crowd that joined us, and yeah, it's really lovely to chat. So it's spring here right now. There's a wind blowing, that hot wind, which here they call the Fon. I have missed your live. I need to catch up with you, Francis. So tonight's, the spring equinox was 2 days ago, I think. And today there's this hot wind that comes up from the Sahara Desert, I think. And it's called the Fon, and you can feel it in the air because suddenly there's this constant wind, but it's kind of like a hot wind. And it normally brings big weather changes with it because you can imagine there's been snow on all the mountains here. So when that cold air meets this hot air, it can cause storms and turbulence. I'm not a meteorologist, but that's what they tell me. Anyway, so let's go back to what we were talking about. So Italy is vastly popular. I don't know why. I mean, I came here, I live here, I've been here for 20 years. I love where I live. I love the town I live in. Today, I went out for a walk to go and get some groceries this afternoon because I had some people coming for tea. And literally, the passenger road, which is free of traffic, it's a traffic limited zone, was chock block of people. I literally it was like standing in a crowd waiting in a queue. I couldn't actually get through the street. There were so many people. So the Italians are all out enjoying the spring. And that's the wonderful thing about Italian towns. There's all these gorgeous bars and trattorias and beautiful shops. I mean, I'm spoiled for choice. Just downstairs, there's all the beauty in the world to be enjoyed. Window shopping or shopping. There's beautiful handbags. And by the way, Francis, there's the most gorgeous perfume shop, which has all the niche perfumes that I could never find before. And it's literally about, I don't know, not even 50 meters from my door, this exquisite perfume shop with all of the beautiful perfumes I love. And by the way, they have Elizabethan Rose, one of our favorites. So yes, we are very spoilt in Italy with beautiful shops. And it is a lifestyle that people really aspire to and want. And so I do feel quite strongly about the Brexit thing. I mean, Francis goes back and forth to Ireland. Am I right in understanding that you're Irish? You are, yes. Well, a lot of what the UK, we all know this, Brexit happened, and many of those people were spending some time here in Italy. I still have Italy on my bucket list. You have to come. I'll take you on a tour. It's a deal. So, yes, so a lot of UK, not Ireland, because they're still in the European Union, a lot of UK suddenly were faced, well, all of UK, not a lot of it, all of it, was faced with this terrible word Brexit. And we are now, further down the line. And in 2020 was the last date in which you had to register and say, so if you're from Northern Ireland, you're still part of the UK, apparently. Certainly, on my British passport, it says Northern Ireland. So we have the same nationality, Francis, even though I also have Italian nationality now. Anyway, so I really feel for the Brexit nation, because people were coming to Europe, they had ties in Europe, they maybe had a home here, and they spent some time here, and then they went back to England to take care of family or run their business or whatever they were doing. And now that's just not possible. And every day I try to help people who families have been torn apart by this, and people who now don't have the right to reside here and bought a house and really are very frustrated and are trying to find a way that they can in some way not be subject to the 90-day Schengen problem that they have. And so this is a reality for so many people. And I think it was so good for so many years. People would go and spend time in France and then be semi-retired and then maybe pop back to UK and do some work and then go back to France or wherever they had a house. Lots of them are in Italy. Tuscany is full of British people. And even where I am, an hour from Milan on Lago Maggiore, it's full of British people. So the British people then joined all the other countries, like America, a huge country, Canada, Australia, and all what they call the third countries, which were not part of the European Union. UK is no longer part of the European Union. And so this is the harsh reality of Brexit. People have lots of opinions about Brexit, but this is the reality. And I deal with this reality every day because I'm getting questions from people. I'm getting people saying, please, can you help? Please, can you tell me how it's possible? And hence this live. So tonight we've covered the visas, the different visas, and the different ways that you could have rights to stay in Italy. If this digital nomad visa takes off and they fine-tune it a bit to be a little bit more palatable, I'm hoping that it will give some people at least the chance to come and work in Italy. But we have a very closed job market here, and I imagine, I'm not in on the discussions with the Italian government, but I know that they are very, very anxious and nervous about the job market in Italy because there's a lot of unemployment. A lot of young people don't have the jobs that they planned to have when they left university. You could say that's true of every country, but I know that Italy has this particular feeling that they don't want to open up their job market to non-Europeans. It's already open to Europeans. So if you're a European Union citizen, in other words, you live in Spain, France, and all the other 26 countries, you can simply come and register in Italy and live and work here. They don't have that problem. And that used to be the right of the UK. It is no longer. It stopped when Article 50 was activated and we left the Europe. And I say we, I'm Italian now, but Britain left the European Union. So I understand the frustration. It's really hard for so many people. Families are being split apart because perhaps maybe you know, a British person could come and marry an Italian. They have children together. They have dual nationality, these children. The children used to go to England for 6 months, see their grandparents, come back here, go to school here. And there was a lot of flexibility. There's no longer flexibility. So you have to choose one of these countries to be tax resident in. And if you're tax resident in Italy because you were settled here before 2020, before the Article 50 happened and before Brexit, then this is your tax country. And you can't just go between the two because you don't have rights to stay here longer than 90 days. So there's that. It's a big problem. And it's a thing that I'm very, very aware of. It's a touchy subject. It's a painful subject. And I don't know why why I talk about it, but because sometimes the backlash comes on me, but hey, I really would love to help people if I can. So you can go and watch my other video on the digital nomad visa, which I did yesterday. I've also done one on dual citizenship. You can go watch that. And you can watch some of my other videos about just the beauty of Italy, living in Italy, enjoying it on a holiday, all the lovely sights there are to see, all of that beautiful stuff. So yes. Okay. So I've covered quite a few questions tonight. We will see what happens in the next few weeks in terms of rolling this out. I will go watch the other videos. Oh, thank you, darling. Francis, you might want to watch some of my more touristy videos I put up. And don't forget to like the video, Francis. The live, sorry. It's so lovely to have you here because I've been wanting to ask an Irish person, and even more importantly, a Northern Irish person, which you are. I adore Northern Ireland. One of my favorite journeys ever was to go to Belfast. We went to the theatre. It was stunning. Have you kept your rights? Because whenever I put up a video about Brexit and about the rights, I get messages from Irish people saying, no, we still have our rights. So here's my point is, my understanding, wrongly or rightly, I know the Irish question was always the sticking point in the Brexit thing. So here's the question. Since Northern Ireland is part of the UK, still is part of the UK, have you maintained your rights? In other words, are you allowed to spend more than the 90 days in 180 in Europe? That's what I want to know from you, Francis, who's a Northern Irish person. I know that the Irish don't come into it because I know the country's split in two. You have Northern Ireland and Ireland. Ireland is still part of the EU and always will be. But have you kept your Northern Irish rights? I'm not asking about dual citizenship. I'm asking you if you wanted to come and stay in the European Union for a year, could you? I hope this isn't a difficult question, but it is a question I genuinely want to ask because quite a few Irish people have written to me on my videos. Okay. So Francis is saying in the chat, if you can't see the chat, those of you joining, I can stay as long as I want. In Europe, you can stay as long as you want. So you could come to France or Italy and you're not limited by Schengen at all. Is that what you're saying? I understand that you have Canadian citizenship and you have Northern Irish, which is UK citizenship. So you, as a Northern Irish person, have kept your rights to be in the European Union when you like, however long you like. Okay, you can stay in the UK, but the UK is out of Europe. The UK is no longer in Europe. You can definitely stay in UK because you are a citizen. You're a citizen of UK. My question is, Can you visit Europe? And maybe somebody who's checking in, maybe somebody who's joining us, or maybe somebody who watches this video back, let me know. I really want to know the answer to this question, because I assumed that Irish people, not Northern Ireland, Ireland, which is part of the European Union, obviously they are part of the European Union, nothing has changed. Francis, you'll do me a huge favor if you could let me know. Can you ask, I don't know, you on some Northern Irish forum, if you have maintained your rights to Schengen? Schengen are the countries that have the agreement in which you have to get a permission. So if a Canadian comes to Europe, if a British person comes to Europe, you get the 90 days, and you can stay for 90 days, and then you have to get out of the Schengen. So that's my question. Have you kept that, or has it gone away? Thank you for joining us. Won't you just put your name down in the box? I love to know which country you're joining us from. So we're now on a chat about Northern Irish rights, whether, and you can let me know if you're going to watch this back. I've got quite a lot of Irish people who watch this. Have the Northern Irish people who are part of the UK, have they kept their rights in terms of the European Union, or do they not have those rights anymore because of Brexit? I'm not talking about the Irish people, I'm talking about the Northern Irish people. So Francis says to me, I'll let you know, I'll ask my sister. I really want to know this. So won't you ask your dear sister, Francis? Francis lives in Canada, by the way, and she has dual citizenship. UK citizenship, she's Northern Irish, and also Canadian. I'm really interested to know this because I know there was so much discussion around when the whole Brexit negotiation process was happening, and the British Prime Minister, which was Theresa May at the time, and then Boris Johnson, went back and forth to Europe to try and negotiate this divorce from the European Union. And the Irish rights were always in this, but I never understood whether it was trading rights. I understood it was trading rights with the border between Northern Ireland and Ireland, or how that all worked out. It was deeply complicated, always has been. But if I remember rightly, it was the sticking point of the whole Brexit negotiations was this Irish agreement. So somebody who knows better than me, I hope you're going to write in the comments if you watch this back and let me know. And Francis, do come back and let me know whether a Northern Irish citizen, in other words, a UK citizen, can have more than 90 days in Europe on a visit, or are you subject to Schengen like all the other third countries, which are the ones that don't belong to the European Union? I'm really interested to know this. And yeah, anyway, so we never know where these lives are going to go. We started out with the visas, the digital nomad visa for Italy that everybody's been crying for. I ran through that with you. You need to go and watch my video on that if you have more questions. The elective visa for people who want to retire in Italy, who have already bought a home here or want to buy a home here. Italy is such a beautiful country. From the north to the south, it's a huge country. It's long, and it has this spine of mountains down the middle, which have beautiful scenery, and then two long coasts. The Adriatic coast, which runs down from Venice all the way down to Bari, and then this side comes from France to Liguria, to the beautiful Cinque Terre into Tuscany, then down to Rome, and further down to Napoli, to the Amalfi Coast, and then to Campania, and on and on and on to Basilicata. And then we have Sicily, this beautiful island with so much history that so many people want to visit or live on. Then we have Sardinia, another beautiful island. We have lots of little islands, but those are the two main ones that form part of Italy. They are part of the the region of Italy, that they are Italian. And so, yes, Italy has so much to offer as a holiday maker, as a temporary resident, as a permanent resident, and as a citizen like me. So, yeah. Anyway, I wanted to round this up by saying, please let me have any questions you have about whatever subject, whether you're one of the people who bought a home in Italy and can't stay on anymore because you fall under the Brexit thing, whether you're a person who just loves Italy, would like to visit and would like to watch our lives. And some of my lives in the future will be out and about. I'll take you on a walkabout, because people often say, I want to see your beautiful town that you talk about. And so, yeah, so whatever reason you're joining us for, please don't forget to subscribe, because it helps the channel enormously. You subscribing is the best thing, the best way you can help me, because that way YouTube will suggest my videos to other people who need them or are interested in them. And you can like the video. That's a great thing to do. And always leave me a comment. I really want to know what you think, whether you have a big question or you don't have a big question. But if you have a question, please leave it in the comments, and then other people can check on it and be helped by it. And that way I'll be sure not to miss it, because in the chat we might miss it. So anyway, I'm going to round this up. And it's been really interesting that we had Francis with us this evening, because I'm now desperate to know the answer to this question. I have an inquiring mind, and I do a lot of research on everything that I speak about, because I don't want to misinform people. So I'm really interested in this. And Francis, if you go and watch some of my videos, like living in Italy after Brexit, there's a video, I'll put it up here, living in Italy after Brexit, you'll see that there's a couple of Irish people who insist that they still have their rights. They don't actually specify whether they're Northern Irish or Irish, they just say Irish. So I'm concerned that maybe I've missed something. But I assume just Ireland maintain their rights, but it could be. So anyway, you're going to come back to me. I can't wait to hear that. And won't you leave me a comment on that video, on this one, whichever you prefer? And I'm dying to know the answer to that question. So anyway, Francis, how's the weather in Canada? Is it snowing? We've had an enormous amount of snow for 2 weeks. The mountains around were covered in snow. But it is now warming up. Spring is here. All my bulbs, my tulips and my daffodils are already blooming here in Italy. So I want to know what your weather's like. Is it still cold there? Is what I want to know. Okay. So I'm going to round this up. We're going to try and keep it. I try and keep it to 45 minutes. Sometimes it strays into an hour if we have a couple of people and we get into subjects and chat. If you have other questions about any of the visas for Italy, or about dual citizenship, or about any subject whatsoever to do with Italy, buying a house here, your rights, what the taxability is, what benefits Italy could offer, let me know in the comments. See you on the next one. Bye for now. See you on the next one from Italy. Ciao. Buona serata. I won't say bon weekend because the weekend's already over, but happy Monday. And see you on the next one. See you on the next one. And Francis, come join us again. Loved having you. Bye for now. Bye. Bye, bye. Bye, bye, bye.